everyone, and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name is Amanda, and in today's video we are going to be doing an easy build up builder gel infill with a gel polish application over the top, as I've been really wanting to get one of the new red shades on my own nails. Now, I did do this set of nails on last Friday's YouTube video, so I have only been wearing them for around a week and a half, so they're not necessarily due an infill, but like I said, I just really want to get one of the new shades on my own nails. So we're gonna clean the nails or cleanse the nails using a alcohol wipe and get ready to infill the same way as I would as if the nails would have more growth than what they do. So I'm going to start off by taking the Kiki London 100 grit file and start filing down the bulk. Now, this particular set had a rubber base layer, a thin layer of easy build up gel, then we did some nala, and then we encapsulated that in the easy build up gel as well. So mainly what I'm taking off is the encapsulation layer and the top coat, and then also taking down the gel polish marble and the nail art that we had encapsulated. Now, when you are filing down the nails, you want to use as much of the length of the file as possible, but you only want to go in one direction rather than backwards and forwards. So although it looks as though I'm going backwards and forwards, I'm actually lifting the file off the nail and then doing the next swipe, if that makes sense, rather than going backwards, forwards, because what happens when you are going backwards and forwards is you start creating heat and friction, and then you can make your natural nail feel as though it's burning because you are creating heat. So it's really important that you use the length of your file, do a straight sweep across the nail, lift off, and then another straight sweep across the nail, always going in the same direction. And then I'm just thinning this down. I don't want to take off that thin layer of builder gel that was the base layer. And it doesn't necessarily matter for this particular design if I leave a little bit of that nail art there, because we will be covering it up with the design that we're doing. If I was doing a little bit more of a complicated design, I would probably, or if I was doing something where I'm going to be seeing underneath the nails, I would just do a complete removal and then reapply. But in this scenario, it's a lot easier to just do an infill. So I did that on all of the nails. So now that we have debulked and are just left with our thin first coat of builder gel, I'm going to come in and prep the nail plate. So because I'd only done my nails a week ago, I don't necessarily have too much stubborn cuticle or too much cuticle that's going to have grown on the nail plate to remove. So obviously this sort of step is going to depend on the client you're working on, how well they look after their natural nails. I don't tend to look after my cuticles as well as I should. So I do always seem to, at the moment anyway, they do seem to be a little bit dry. So I do still have a little bit of cuticle to work with and remove. So I'm using the double-ended cuticle tool from Kiki London, one end to push back that cuticle, and then I'm using the other end to scrape any of that excess that gets picked up. Then I'm going to come in with this round ball bit on my e-file, and I've got this on a fairly low speed, and I'm just using this mainly to get rid of some of those drier pieces of cuticle that we've lifted up but are still stuck to the nail plate. I don't always do this. Again, it will depend on my nails at the time. So again, it's one of those things that you're going to assess and to decide on if your client is going to need it. Everyone does their prep a little bit differently as well. Now, I have got a more detailed dedicated prep video already up on the channel, so I will leave that linked in the description box below, and I'm hoping to have a more updated one soon as well. Now that we have done that, I'm going to take an alcohol wipe, and this time I'm using it to cleanse that regrowth area. Now, it is only a small regrowth area, but it is still really important that you're going to cleanse and dehydrate it to remove any moisture. And then we're going to come in and apply our primer. Now, the primer does only need to be applied to that regrowth area, so I'm not applying it to the entire nail, and this does air dry. Now, before I move on to applying any of my gel products, I always get my two brushes to hand that I know I will reach for. So that is the angled nail art brush, which I will use for cleanup, and the stripe liner brush, which I will use for getting my gel products closer to the skin and cuticles. So here to start off with, I'm going to be using a rubber base coat, and we've got RB14, which is a really nice semi-transparent nude. It's a really nice light natural shade. for this particular design, I know I'm going to be coming over the top with red gel polish, so I could have just used a clear base coat because I'm not actually going to be using it for the colour. However, I just really favour working with the coloured rubber bases. I just find it a lot easier to apply these because they've got a bit of colour than applying a clear base coat. Another thing that comes down to personal preference. So I'm going to apply this to the entire nail. Now technically it does only need to be applied to that regrowth area, but I always prefer when I'm doing an infill to come in and just apply it to the entire nail, because then you're getting a nice even coat. The reason we don't necessarily need it on the entire nail is because we're not applying it over the natural nail. There is still that layer of base coat already applied and a thin layer of builder gel. So what I'm doing is I'm coming in using my bottle brush to begin with and just taking a really small amount on my brush and then applying it to the entire nail, getting it as close to that cuticle as possible. But then I will come in with my stripe liner brush just to get the cuticle application a lot neater and a lot closer, and then the same goes around the side walls. If you do tend to happen to touch the skin or cuticles, this is where you come in with your angled nail art brush and a little bit of alcohol to clean up. Once we're happy with that application, I'm going to pop that into cure for 30 seconds. And for today's easy build up set, I'm going to be using Nude Tone, which is a really gorgeous peachy nude shade. So I'm going to start off by taking a small amount on my brush and applying a thin slip layer. So I'm going to apply this to the entire nail, applying a little bit of pressure so that that brush fans out, so that we can get a nice application up close to the cuticle and the side walls. But then same as before, I'm going to take my stripe liner brush and use this to get even closer to the cuticle area without touching the skin or cuticles, and it really helps get a nice neat cuticle line as well, especially if you're working, because not all clients or not everyone has neat perfectly round cuticle area shape. So it helps by using the stripe liner brush to follow the shape of their natural cuticle line. So I always have this to hand, especially when I'm working on short natural nails or small nail beds like my own. I find it a lot easier to have that to hand. So once we had applied our slip layer, I'm going to build up the strength and structure. Now it is only a natural nail overlay and I have only got short nails, so we don't need to build up too much thickness or too much structure because we don't want a too bulky layer. I will talk through how I do my builder layer as we get there again on this nail. So I'm coming in again and applying that slip layer. Now your slip layer is a thin wet layer of gel. Again, like I said with prep, you will find that different people do things differently. So if you have learned a different way, don't feel as though you have to use the Kiki London products this way. This is just how I find them easiest. So again, what I'm going to do is once we've got that slip layer down, keeping it wet, I'm going to take a small ball of gel onto the very end of one side of my brush, and then I'm going to use a circular motion to wriggle this off of my brush onto the slip layer. And because you've got that slip layer down, the gel will pull the gel off of the brush onto the nail, and then I just gently walk this from side to side down the nail, focusing a lot of that product in the apex area and down the spine of the nail. Now, one of the great things about the Easy Build Up Gel is that it self-levels absolutely beautifully. So if you do happen to apply your application a little bit uneven, or if you're starting out and your application just isn't perfect, then you can hold your hand upside down for a few seconds and it will pull into place. Because it self-levels, by holding your hand upside down, gravity is going to do its thing and pull that gel away from the side walls down into the center spine of the nail. So you're going to be able to build up a really nice natural apex. Now this is a little bit harder to do on tips, or if you've got long nails, or if you've sculpting nails, but it's definitely a lot easier to do when you're doing these short builder gel overlays. So we're just going to continue doing those steps on all of the nails. Now for this particular set, we're just building up the entire nail to begin with using the Easy Build Up Gel, where in last week's video I did show you guys how I encapsulate or sandwich a gel polish design in the middle of 2 layers of builder gel. So if you'd like to check that out, that is last Friday's video. video. I'll see if I can link it either in the cards at the end of the video or in the description box below. But it was using a very similar technique, but keeping the layers a little bit thinner than what we are here. I am only doing this overlay in one layer because again, we're working on short nails. If you was working on more medium to longer length nails, you might want to do these exact same steps but do them in 2 layers so that you are adding a little bit more structure to the nail. Now, one of the great things about the Easy Build Up Gel is its strengthening properties. I absolutely love this for my own nails because they are on the more thin, weaker side, and I am very heavy on my nails. So especially if I know that I've been a little bit rough on my nails and they're needing a little bit of extra TLC, then I'll come in and before applying my gel polish, I will do a layer of builder gel, exactly how we're doing in today's video. So if you have got any clients who struggle keeping gel polish on because their nails are not very strong, or if they've come to you and they've told you they've got damaged nails, maybe through a medication or how they've treated their nails, then I would highly recommend trying out a builder gel overlay on them because it really does help the natural nails grow out while strengthening them as well. So this is what they looked like once we had cured all 4 of those nails. Now I did actually do 2 nails and then cured 2 and then did the next 2. That's because I'm working in a video and I don't want the gel to run around too much. If you are working on a client, it's a lot easier to do all 4 nails in one go. Or if you prefer, you can do 1 nail on one hand, pop that into cure and then work on the other hand. Again, it's kind of like personal preference. A lot of the time when I was working on clients and doing longer nails, I would do 1 nail on one hand and then switch and do the other hand. But when you're doing a shorter overlay and you're not using as much gel, it's not going to flow around on the nail as much, so it's easy to do all 4 nails in one go and then cure them. Now I did decide I wanted to come in and just use the 180 grit side of the Kiki London file just to perfect the shape. Now I'd already had quite a natural rounded shape, so I tend to just stick to this on my own nails, especially when they're this short as well. But I do like it to look nice and crisp, and sometimes you can lose that crispness after applying your builder gel. So it's easier to just come in, wipe off the tacky inhibition layer with some alcohol and then file and shape the nails. At this point as well, if you're not 100% happy with your application, if it's a little bit uneven, a little bit lumpy bumpiness going on, you can come in and buff the surface of the nail to smooth that out, or in some cases you might feel that you need to come in and file, so I would highly recommend only using the 180 grit side of the file for that. Now let's talk red gel polish. This one here is the most beautiful shade of red I have seen. I love this one. This is Love Crush and this is from the new Lady in Red collection. If you missed the launch of the Lady in Red collection, then it was the previous video that was uploaded to the channel, but again I will try and leave it linked for you in the description box below. But the Lady in Red collection consisted of 3 vibrant red shades, a red glitter and a hearts top coat. And what I love about a red gel polish is there's a different red for everyone, and I have struggled finding one that I feel as though is my perfect match, and then I found this beautiful shade and I feel as though it suits my skin tone beautifully for a really bright pop of shade of a colour. I really feel as though I'm going to get a lot of use out of this one, especially in the summer months as well. Now red can be considered a more tricky shade to apply because of how bright and pigmented it is. So this is how I like to apply, which is still very similar to how I apply all of my other gel polishes. You just have to be a lot more careful with red because it tends to stain the skin if it does tend to touch your skin or cuticles. So with a paler shade, if you get it on the skin or cuticles, you can wipe it off with some alcohol and you're good to carry on. With the highly pigmented shades, they tend to stain, so then when you wipe off the gel polish, you're still going to see those marks and it makes your application look a lot more messy. So if you are using a red or a highly pigmented shade, you just need to work as careful and as neat as you can, which of course is easier said than done. So what I like to do is take a very small amount on my brush, and because the colours are very highly pigmented, a little bit goes a long way anyway, so you don't have to stress about loading up your brush with loads of gel polish. So I will take a small amount on one side of my brush, so I'll completely wipe off one side of my bottle brush and then half wipe off the other side, so that I've got a small amount of gel polish down at that very bottom half of the bottle brush, and then I will place the bottle brush on my nail slightly further away from the cuticle area so that I ain't trying to get close with the bottle brush. Then I'll come straight down the nail, and that's going to take a lot of that product off your brush and onto the nail so that you're not going to be chasing excess product around the nail with your brush. And then I will cover as much as the nail as I can with the bottle brush. I'll let the brush fan out. Because you've only got a small amount of product on there, you can apply a little bit of pressure and your gel polish is going to fan out without flooding the cuticles. But I won't try and get close with that bottle brush. I won't try and go right up to the cuticle with the bottle brush. What I will do is just get as close as I can comfortably without feeling like I'm going to flood the skin or cuticles. And then I'll come in with my stripe liner brush, take a small amount of the red gel polish on my stripe liner brush, and then go in around that cuticle. It might take a couple of attempts to get closer and closer, and you're just going to edge closer and closer each time until you have got it as close and as neat to the cuticle area and sidewalls as you can. And then we're going to pop that first coat into cure. If you do happen to touch the skin or cuticles, clean up with some alcohol, but you might just have to give it a really good rub so that you avoid any staining. Now, once we have cured that first coat of colour, we're going to come in and apply the second coat of colour, and I'm going to apply that exactly the same as before. So when it comes to picking up my gel polish, I'm making sure that my brush isn't overloaded. As you can see here, there's barely any gel polish on the other side of that brush. I might flip it around and use the other side at times, so that's why I don't want there to be too much product on the brush. And then I apply it the same as before in terms of I don't come right up to that cuticle area with my brush. I get fairly close and then just float that second coat on. Now I will again come in with the stripe liner brush to go around the cuticles and sidewalls, and the only real difference I tend to do on my second coat is I will cap the free edge. I don't do this on the first coat because I feel as though it adds unnecessary bulk to the nails, especially when you're working on short natural nails. Of course, again, if you find that you prefer to cap the first coat, you can, but I only tend to do it on the second coat. And by capping the free edge, you are literally just using either your bottle brush or your stripe liner brush to run your gel polish along the tip of the nail. Now, because we've done a builder gel overlay, we do have a little bit of thickness, only a small amount, but obviously the nail is a little bit thicker than what just the natural nail would be. So I find it really important to cap that free edge so that you're not going to have this noticeable white line, if that makes sense, or nude line in this case. Then once we have applied that second coat of colour, we're going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds. And when you do apply the second coat, this just wows you even more because it is such a bright, gorgeous shade. Now, I applied this as neat as I possibly could. It took me a fair amount of time, and that's why today's video is a little bit longer. I always am a little bit slower working on my own nails, but I really love this shade. So if you haven't checked this one out, or if you feel as though this red isn't for you, do check out the other reds that released recently in the latest launch, or do check out the red section on the website because there are a huge range of reds to choose from. So once we had cured our second coat, I'm simply going to come in and top coat today using the no wipe top coat, which gives us this beautiful, gorgeous high shine finish, and it's going to ensure that our gel polish lasts for 3 to 4 weeks and ensures that we're not going to get any chipping of the colour and things like that. Again, I do like to cap the free edge with my top coat as well, but I kind of don't necessarily run it right along the free edge. I just make sure that my brush is coming over the edge ever so slightly so that we are sealing in the tips of the nail as well, as this is going to minimize any chipping. Then we're going to pop that into cure for 30 seconds, and this is what the finished result looks like. I just can't believe the shine of this shade is absolutely stunning. Then lastly, I am going to come in with the Fresh Rose Cuticle Oil. So I'm just going to apply a dot of this on all of the nails and give that a really good massage in, as I do tend to have really dry skin and cuticles. So I absolutely love doing this step to really nourish and replenish the cuticle area. I like to really massage this in as well. So I'm going to give it a quick rub on camera, and then off camera I continued to rub that in, and then wiped over the nails just to remove some of that excess oil before showing you guys the finished result and taking some pictures as well. So do let me know in the comments below what you think of this beautiful shade. In case you missed it, this is Love Crush. And if you did enjoy watching today's video, please do give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, let me know how you are all doing, or if you have any video requests. And if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, please do hit that subscription button. As always, I will leave all the products I've used linked in the description box below, so do check that out. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.